Segun-Okeowo was loyal to organizational method of making one's feelings known, was loyal to norms. You know, he was the president of National Union of Nigerian Students, and he was an organizer by so long, you know, if you know what I'm talking about. It was not easy to conduct the struggle that he led against the military. And that was the time, at a time when the military, of course, had put in place many decrees and was intimidating people by arresting people without detention and without trial. They were detaining people without trial. And that's what we call preventive detention. So for students then to mobilize themselves all over the country and stood their ground, that showed a lot about his organizational skills. And of course, he was also knowledgeable, because if he didn't understand the nature of our country, the nature of the military, it would have been very difficult for him to lead that struggle. So I would say that students of nowadays, they have to learn one or two things from the older generation of student leaders, or those who led Nigeria student movement in time past. And one of the things they must learn, which I think Commissioner Segun-Okeowo also demonstrated while conducting that struggle, is the fact that honesty is always the best policy, and that people should not be anchoring after wealth without work, because that is one of the things that has destroyed the fabric of our society. You find that everybody wants to leave the university and then become a billionaire overnight. And then you see that the way student unionism is being operated today, many people think that it should also guarantee them access to power, to those who exercise political power, and also get resources, you know, get money from people who are occupying various government houses today. That's why each time I see many of our, you know, young students, particularly those who claim to be leading NANS and other, you know, student union governments, as they call them now, in various schools, I'm shocked that they keep circulating themselves around governors' offices, National Assembly. I once met some of them at the National Assembly lobby, and I asked them what they were doing there. And the guy was so shameless enough to tell me that, well, since people like us who had left the student movement were not assisting them, they had to look for, I mean, it was very disgusting. So when we were conducting struggles, we never took money from anybody. We never visited any public office holder. And we didn't see occupying government offices as a matter of luxury. Today, you find many of these students, they fly all over the place. They number their vehicles SUG-1, just like the oppressors do. So these were things that never occurred in our days. And I think they need to learn that from people like Commissioner Segun-Okeowo. Because if the military, if he had agreed, perhaps the military would have bribed him. But that was not even on the cards at all. I mean, it wasn't going to happen because of the kind of structures that we had in the student movement. Activism aimed at creating a just society. I mean, even from the time of the Zikis movement, when you can talk about people like Zungo and so many of the members of that organization who championed the struggle against colonialism. People like Osita Guna, who later became, I think, an Eze in the eastern part of the country. So we have that history. And the thing that we need to do is to have a way of making sure that our youth connect with that history. Because if there's a disconnect, and of course, it will just appear as if we are reinventing the wheel, as it were, or starting from the beginning. But it's not so. Right from anti-colonialism, you had people like that. And then when we're talking about even student unionism, Nigeria has produced so many eminent people who are student union leaders in their own right. I mean, I can mention maybe immediately, for those that I still know are alive, and many people may not even know. People like Dr. Abayomi Ferreira. He was one of the leaders of nuns. He later he joined the army. I think he retired as a lieutenant colonel many years ago. He's also in his 70s. You know, you also have people, even like people like Julius Adelui, who later became a secretary under the Abacha government, I think, a minister for health or something. The owner of Julie Pharmacy. He was a student leader. You know, we have so many people don't know this. You know, we have so many of these people. Some of them have gone into business. Even the other day, this man was also telling me about Tudeko, the man who is now in the corporate world. I think he has substantial shares in Airtel and so many of these other companies. You know, he was in trade unionism. So we have all of these people who have made their own contribution. But the point is that, and I think that is the weakness of the movement, once people left the universities, then they get bogged down in existential living issues. And so there is no connect back, if I can use that phrase, with the things they were doing in the university. And so those organizations just crumble. And because these organizations crumble, then people then forget the ideals. I'm just trying to explain. I'm not saying that this holds true for everybody. Of course, we have also had student leaders who left the student movement and still kept touch with the struggles against injustice, struggles for fairness and equity, particularly in the mid-80s, the one that I think I'm very familiar with, very close to my own generation actually. We have leaders of the student movement who left and then in fact created the first pro-democracy movement as we now know them. Because really it is not accurate to say that those were the first pro-democracy movement. But if you look at pro-democracy movement in the present historical conjuncture, some of our comrades who left the university system, like Chima Obani, Emma Ezeazu, Larry Ahonwa, so many, Ogaga Efowodo, left the university system, left NANS, and then of course created the pro-democracy movement like Civil Liberties Organization, Committee for Defense of Human Rights. And I can also talk about Malam Lukman Salihu. And even you have the likes of Mahmoud Aminu. You also have Nasiru Kura. I mean, since you want names, I'm just trying to read out these names so that you can see that. I mean, even one of the owners of this medium, Showore Omoyele, I mean, this was student movement, student leaders who left the university system and then decided to also continue with that tradition outside the system. And I think they made very useful effort. They fathered these young men who just came from the university, young men and women, because we must also forget also people like Comfort Ogunye now, who was the first female NAS president, people like Ngozi Iwere, the first female PRO of NAS. All of these people made very, and Bonlu Adebodo also, very hefty contributions. And their vibrancy, their power of articulation, and their consistency, their honesty promoted the campaign for validation of Abela's mandate all over the world. But the failure of the movement, as I was saying earlier on, that after the good showing of campaign for democracy and the creation of the pro-democracy movement of the maybe mid-80s, then our people would seem to have relaxed. Maybe it's because of the sheer enormity of the problems. Maybe it's frustration. But whatever it is, the time has now come for everyone who believes in the future of this country and who believes that Nigeria cannot continue to go the way it is going. We need to get to the point where we must go back to the roots, go back to the university system, ensure that we build cadre organizations that can take over from the old student activists, a new crop of student leaders who are not enamored of the gaudy or fake wealth that is being displayed by all these funny politicians. A new set of students who understand that the future of Nigeria is their future, and who understand that unless they do something now, then they will have no future. But it's our duty and responsibility to connect with them, to do everything we can to support in creating that, the emergence of that platform. If we don't do it, then I think my generation, and I say this very clearly without any fear of contradiction, will have failed in its own historic mission.